Imagine, if you will, the scene. The air is thick with smoke, the floor underfoot slightly sticky, and the cacophony of voices and laughter fills the air. Welcome to the medieval tavern, the beating if somewhat irregular heart of the town. Here in this unassuming structure, where the thatched roof sags with the weight of stories and secrets, you find yourself amidst a curious blend of humanity. Knights, farmers, and bards alike gather under this roof, their statuses forgotten, their thirsts equally quenched, and their pockets equally lightened by the morning. As you step through the threshold, the atmosphere wraps around you like a cloak. This isn't merely a place to quench your thirst, it's a crucible where danger, mirth, and the occasional plague dance in the flickering candlelight. But before you settle into this rich tapestry of life, let me ask you, dear viewer, to share in this experience. Tell me, from where in this wide world are you joining us tonight? What hour does your clock show? The tapestry of our audience is as diverse as the patrons of this tavern. Now let us dim the lights, perhaps switch on a fan, to mimic the soft hum of medieval life and embark on this journey together. You've navigated through streets slick with mud, the scent of horse manure mingling with smoke, and the dubious aroma of simmering soup. Rain has either just ceased or is still falling, turning your shoes into slip-and-slide devices. You're weary, famished, and have narrowly escaped being crushed by a rogue cart of turnips, not once but twice. A drink you crave, a respite from the day's trials. But how does one locate a tavern in this era? There are no neon signs to guide you, no digital maps or reviews to consult. Instead, you listen. Beyond the clanging of the blacksmith's hammer and the fishmonger's boisterous claims of fresh river eels, there's a symphony of human noise. Laughter, shouts, and a bard passionately singing about a goose lead you to a crooked building, its very frame seeming to sway from overindulgence. Above the door, a weathered sign, barely decipherable, bears the image of what might be a barrel or. Step into the embrace of the tavern, where the ground beneath your feet is slick with the remnants of revelry. As you press against the heavy iron-hinged door, it groans a long theatrical creak, a sound so rich it could entertain in its own right. The moment you step inside, you're enveloped by a wave of warmth and the intoxicating sense of smoke, damp wool, stale beer, and something suspiciously meaty, each scent a drunken handshake welcoming you into the heart of the medieval tavern. Here the ceiling hangs so low that even the tallest must bow, and the inebriated are bound to meet it with their skulls. The floor, it's dirt not in metaphor, but in gritty, tangible reality. Straw has been scattered about in a futile attempt at cleanliness, but it deceives no one. Privacy is a myth here. There are no secluded booths, no servers with menus, and certainly no whisper-quiet talks. The tavern operates on two modes, boisterously alive or closed, due to the peril of fire. You find an empty spot at a bench, its surface suspiciously damp, but you choose not to inquire. Nearby, a dispute over a pilfered chicken rages on, while another patron slumbers, ladle in hand, oblivious to the world. A one-eyed dog, seemingly a tenant of the tavern, gnaws on a bone beneath a table, his presence as permanent as the fixtures. The door slams shut behind you, sealing you within this world of shadows and scents. The darkness clings to you like a damp woolen blanket, warm, uncomfortable, and with an air of mystery. As your eyes adjust, the candlelight dances on soot-stained walls, bringing to life shadows that animate even the furniture, as if they too might partake in the night's brawls. The hearth in the corner roars, a beacon of warmth and danger, with smoke that meanders through the air, reluctant to leave through the reluctant chimney. Here you are, barely through the door, and already the night promises tales to remember, or perhaps to forget. The air is thick, not just with the clamor of voices and the oppressive heat, but with a scent that sears itself into your memory, a concoction so pungent it could only be described as emotional trauma distilled into an aroma. Imagine ale, not just in mugs, but splattered across every wooden surface, its sour tang mingling with the musk of human horse, and perhaps even the faint trace of something otherworldly. Underneath this, layers of sweat, moldy bread, damp straw, and a whisper of boiled onions create a symphony of smells that no perfumer would dare to capture. The tables before you bear the scars of countless nights etched with initials, crude sketches, and the marks of countless knives. They stand wobbling yet proud, a testament to the tavern's enduring spirit. The benches groan under the weight of muddy boots, thick cloaks, and the heavy burden of questionable decisions made under the influence of ale. Beneath your feet, the floor, true to its promise, is dirt covered with straw that does its best to absorb the spills, the spit, and the bodies of the tavern's more enthusiastic patrons. You tread with caution, for one misstep could plunge your foot into a texture better left to the imagination. Around you, the crowd pulses like a single entity. In one corner, laughter bursts forth raw and unfiltered, while in another, a heated argument over the price of livestock simmers. A woman with a force that sends half her drink sloshing onto the table slams down her mug, and yet the room barely registers the disturbance. A man at the next table gazes at you, his expression one of profound contemplation, or perhaps just the confusion of someone who's forgotten how chairs function. Suddenly, a sneeze from nearby sends the entire left side of the room leaning away in unison, a communal dance of avoidance. And yet, despite the affront to your modern senses, there's an undeniable allure here. This place, this medieval tavern, is alive, raw, and unapologetically real. It's the heart of a community where hygiene is an afterthought, and the volume is turned up to 400%. You find your seat slightly damp and possibly cursed, but for this moment, it's yours. At first glance, the tavern's layout seems haphazard, as if someone had tossed furniture into the room and called it done. But look closer, and you'll see a rhythm, a flow that speaks of countless evenings spent in this very spot, where every creak and groan tells a story of laughter, arguments, and the relentless passage of time. In the midst of this chaotic symphony of furniture, one might ponder what madness or genius inspired such a haphazard arrangement. The earthquake, they say, did not merely shake the foundation, but shook the very soul of this place, leaving tables, benches, barrels, and crates scattered like the aftermath of a wild festival. Here, there's no method to the madness. You're either too close for comfort or stranded in a sea of space, depending on the ale's influence on your perception. The hearth, oh, the hearth, it stands as the sole sentinel of order, its flames dancing wildly, casting a warm golden glow that beckons all like a siren's call. It's the heart of the tavern, where warmth is not just felt, but cherished, where the crowd huddles, their faces illuminated by the fire's embrace, their bodies vying for the prime spots. Those less fortunate in seating warm their spirits with ale, for in this place, spirits are plentiful if comfort is not. The bar, if one dares to call it that, is a mere wooden plank, a bridge over barrels bending under the weight of the tavern's lifeblood, the ale, the jugs, the elbows of patrons. Here the tavern keeper reigns a master of chaos, juggling the pouring of drinks with a stern look that could silence a storm. There are no menus, no written promises of what might be served. You ask, you wait, you brace for the answer, which often comes down to ale or silence. A rickety staircase, possibly as old as the tales told within these walls, leads upstairs. Look closely and you might catch a glimpse of a solitary boot hanging from the railing like a sentinel, or perhaps a somber reminder. The tavern's secrets are many, its back rooms shrouded in mystery. Storage gambling, a place where grievances are settled, the walls darkened by candle soot, whisper tales of times gone by, while the windows draped in greasy cloth, or hide guard the secrets within. Every surface polished by countless hands tells a story, each one more intriguing than the last. In this enchanting chaos of elbows jostling, boots scuffing, and the occasional spill of drink, the medieval tavern thrives, pulsating with life and stories of old. Imagine the scene where every patron, from the seasoned to the naive, instinctively knows their place, their time to cheer or to take cover. It's a world without formal order, yet vibrantly alive. At the heart of this raucous assembly reigns the tavern keeper, the true sovereign of this domain. Forget the local lord or the tax collector. The real power here is not crowned in gold, but in the respect and fear of those who frequent the establishment. This keeper of the tavern, whether a man or a woman, is an institution unto themselves. If a man, he might appear as if hewn from the very oak of the bar, with a disposition as grizzled as the beard. He sports his body a testament to a life of toil and perhaps too many ales. Should it be a woman, her presence is no less formidable. She commands silence with a mere glance, her wit as sharp as the steel she might wield if pushed. They've witnessed the gamut of human folly, from love affairs to drunken brawls, cleaning blood from the straw before the first light of dawn. They greet the regulars with a knowing nod, eye newcomers with a wary gaze, and handle troublemakers with a swift tankard to the head. Their memory, a ledger of debts, dalliances, and deeds, is kept not on parchment, but within the fortress of their mind, for in the medieval world literacy might be scarce. But the tavern keeper's recall is legendary. The mood of the tavern keeper sets the stage for the evening's play. When in good spirits, the tavern hums with laughter and song. When their mood darkens, patrons know to drink up quickly and keep their humor to themselves. They are the arbiters of disputes, the overseers of fairness, and the first to wield a club should fists fly. You do not cross the tavern keeper, for they are the keepers of secrets, the knowers of all. Who's drowning in debt? Who's entangled in a forbidden love? Who's the stranger in town with a hidden past? Only the tavern keeper knows for sure. Craving information, entice the barkeep with a bribe. Seek safety, find solace in their proximity. Desiring a favor. Pray that you've not recently shattered a mug, for the tavern keeper's memory is as long as their list of grievances. Within these walls, some proprietors have a helper, a child, a spouse, or perhaps an orphan they've taken under their wing. These young souls, burdened with barrels twice their size, navigate the chaos, delivering drinks and swabbing floors, all while dodging the clumsy boots of inebriated patrons. What appears to you as pandemonium is in truth a meticulously balanced ecosystem. At its heart, orchestrating this symphony of survival, stands the tavern keeper, a figure as commanding as a storm god, yet adorned in a humble apron. You finally sink onto a weathered bench, evading elbows and dodging splatters of stew. Your throat parched, your boots sodden, you're ready for the main event of the drink. But don't anticipate a curated wine list or a gleaming mug. This is, after all, a medieval tavern. Your options are sparse, tepid, and potentially hazardous. Begin with the classic ale, unfiltered and unpasteurized, often concocted in the very room where the tavern dog slumbers. It's thick with a cloudy appearance, hosting bits of grain yeast, or perhaps a stray hair from a fellow drinker. It's never chilled, there's no ice here, and you dare not inquire about its age. You simply imbibe and hope for the best. Then there's mead, the honey wine. Sounds luxurious, doesn't it? In practice, it's sweet, potent, and occasionally explosive. If the keeper brewed it themselves, it could be ambrosial, or it might taste of remorse and bee venom. It's typically reserved for nobles, wedding attendees, or that one bard who insists on payment in gold or mead. And what of cider made from apples either freshly plucked or those that kiss the ground? It's a drink that embodies the rustic charm and unpredictable nature of this establishment. Each sip a gamble, each gulp a story in the making. 3 weeks ago, the aroma of fermented fruit filled the air, sharp and tangy, served in mugs with cracks that might double as soup bowls by morning. In the lush orchards, or among those who seek just enough alcohol to mask the scent of the man next to them, this drink reigns supreme. Wine. Technically, yes, but unless you're sipping in the sun-drenched vineyards of southern Europe or clinking glasses with the local nobility, it's likely diluted, soured, and accompanied by a smirk. The finest vintages are reserved for lords bishops and the merchant who just unloaded 12 crates of precious salt. And water, choosing water is a gamble, for it often brims with unseen peril. Boiling it requires precious fuel, and clean wells are as rare as a gentle tax collector. Hence, even the youngest among us sip ale not for the thrill, but to avoid meeting death by dysentery before their 8th birthday. Here in these rustic taverns, there's no art to mixology, no measuring of spirits. You drink from mugs of wood, clay, or tin, some still bearing the remnants of last night's stew. You lift your mug, inhale the scent, and take a sip. It's warm, it's bitter, yet in this moment, it's perfection. In the medieval tavern, if it's liquid and doesn't promise immediate demise, it's deemed a fine vintage. Surviving the drink barely. Now your stomach protests, reminding you of the meager meal of barley and melancholy you had at sunrise. It's time for sustenance, but don't hold your breath. There's no menu, no courteous waiter, and certainly no one inquiring about your dietary preferences. You don't order in a medieval tavern, you inquire about what remains, hoping it's warm and only slightly enigmatic. The highlight of the tavern fare is pottage, a thick stew concocted from whatever grains, vegetables, and dubious meats were available that day. It's been simmering in the same pot since Monday, and now it's Thursday. New patrons must brace themselves for whatever this communal pot has to offer. As each day dawns, the tavern's stew pot welcomes new flavors, each ingredient melding into the rich tapestry of tastes. Nothing is discarded. This is not merely a meal, but a living chronicle of the kitchen's daily harvest. Should you find meat in your bowl, consider yourself blessed. It might be rabbit, perhaps a pigeon, or the hapless chicken that ventured too near the hearth. If it's game meat, it could delight your palate or challenge your taste buds, aged to the brink and seasoned with the essence of necessity. Your bowl, crafted from wood or clay, cradles this concoction. Your spoon, either your own or your fingers, serves as your utensil. Most patrons bring their own knife, turning the act of dining into a communal cutlery celebration. Napkins. Forget about them. You'll use the sleeve of your tunic or share a rag that has witnessed more than it can tell. Bread, too, graces the table, dense, dark, and tough, more akin to a shield than sustenance. If it's soft, it's a delicacy of the day. If hard, a relic of days past. Yet it pairs splendidly with cheese, which carries the pungent aroma of well-worn leather and boasts a character all its own. Occasionally there might be salted fish or pickled eggs, or perhaps the tavern has a special, a term they use for the surplus that lingers around too long. The flavor, optional. The texture, always a gamble. But there in the dance of firelight, amidst the cacophony of voices and the comforting warmth of the food, it's not merely tolerable, it's nourishing, it's hot. And if you dare not ponder too deeply on what might be adrift in your stew, it's almost comforting. You're not here for the finesse of gourmet dining. You're here to dine like a survivor. Once you've claimed your seat, hopefully free from any embedded knives, you begin to appreciate the true spectacle of the people. A medieval tavern is the original social network, alive with loud, chaotic half-truths and fully committed to the art of oversharing. To your left, a farmer with cheeks as red as ripe apples, already lost in his cups. As the evening deepens, the fourth ale in hand, your ears catch the familiar drone of the farmer, now on his fourth retelling of the same tale, his cow giving birth in a most peculiar fashion. His hand lands heavily on your shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie or perhaps a substitute for the swine he usually shares his drinks with. You nod along, a smile playing on your lips. At the far end of the room, a figure cloaked in shadows sips his drink with deliberate slowness. Could he be a fugitive monk, a notorious bandit, or simply someone who struggles with the art of eye contact? Engaging him in conversation seems as risky as a midnight stroll behind the stables. Near the warmth of the hearth, a soldier clad in dented armor captivates a small crowd with his tales of valor. Dragons, Frenchmen, and a sword that speaks, oh, how fantastical. Yet no one seems to mind the stretch of truth. His mug is always full, and laughter fills the air. A merchant, loud and drenched in sweat, bellows prices for grain unsolicited. His gold coins spill from his pouch, practically begging for a thief's attention come midnight. Nearby, two locals engage in a dice game at a table that's seen better days. One cheats the other, well aware, chooses his battles wisely, perhaps saving the confrontation for when his ale runs dry. In the corner, a bard strums his lute, his voice faltering on the higher notes of a love song that sounds suspiciously impromptu. Yet the crowd doesn't mind. He's at least in tune and decently clad, far superior to the performer of the previous night. Women weave through the crowd, some staff, others on personal errands. Their eyes sharp, their demeanor confident. You dare not cross them. They could charm you, jest with you, or if need be, show you the door with a forceful shove. Children swift as shadows dart between legs, pilfering bread or coins. It's all part of the tavern's rhythm, watching, drinking, plotting with everyone, pretending not to notice the man slumped under the table, lost in his own world. Here in this rustic tavern, you are not merely a visitor. You are an integral part of the unfolding drama. The walls themselves seem to pulse with life, their timbers creaking in time to the rhythms of human interaction. Tonight, you are not an observer, but an actor in this vibrant, chaotic theater of existence. Forget the tales of quests and the ballads of old. The true melody of this medieval inn is not sung but lived. It's a cacophony of life, a symphony where every note is a surprise. The evening's overture begins with the clinking of tankards, a staccato of celebration, negotiation, or perhaps a spirited misstep. Mugs clash with a joyous clang or a dramatic shatter, each response greeted with a roaring cheer. Laughter, rich and unrestrained, erupts like a geyser from the depths of the patrons' souls. What's the humor? A farmer finds his own jest about hay. Side-splittingly funny, a knight giggles at the mere mention of pottage, and a monk struggles for breath each time the word duck is uttered. You soon learn to embrace the absurdity without inquiry. Voices rise, each attempting to outdo the other like roosters crowing at dawn. Arguments flare, stories are spun, cries of tax grievances echo, and somewhere someone is misquoting scripture to clinch a wager. The barkeep shouts above the din, swatting at flies as if they too partake in the revelry. A barmaid's sharp rebuke pierces the air when a hand strays too far, and amidst it all the chant for another round sounds like a warrior's battle cry. In the corner, the bard with his lute missing strings and half-tuned plucks, at the same four chords weaving tales of lost loves, found chickens and noblemen's sartorial mishaps. His songs are mostly ignored until he names someone present, then the room erupts in laughter or bristles with tension. A drink spills, a burp shakes the very rafters, and someone tumbles from a bench only to continue their conversation from the floor as if planned. Dogs bark, a goat bleats. Why indeed is there a goat? And the scraping of chairs across the earthen floor rolls like distant thunder. Here in this moment, every sound, every action, every breath is part of the living, breathing performance that is this tavern. Within the timbered alcove of this ancient inn, the atmosphere pulsates with a rhythm that, while not serene, is strangely captivating. There are moments when the din subsides not by intention, but in a sudden, unexpected lull that lingers for precisely 3 heartbeats. Then, as if to break the spell, a heroic flatulence erupts, and the symphony of the tavern resumes. This cacophony, far from mere background noise, is the very heartbeat of the place, unrefined, boisterous, and vibrantly alive. Listen closely, and you'll discover a peculiar harmony emerging from the chaos. Like the tavern itself, the longer you linger, the louder it grows. As the ale flows freely, and the stew begins to settle in the bellies of the patrons, the tavern metamorphoses. No longer merely a venue for sustenance, it morphs into a medieval gambling den, devoid of the opulence of velvet ropes, but rich with exuberant shouts. Here gambling is the night's sport engaged in by all from seasoned warriors to barefoot urchins clutching borrowed dice. There's no formal dealer, no overseer, just a worn wooden table, a scattering of copper coins, and the unspoken promise that someone will soon part with their pride. Dice, the favored game, are crafted from whatever material is at hand, bone, wood, or scraps. They roll across the tables with a sound like distant thunder, each throw eliciting a chorus of cheers, moans, and accusations of sorcery. Trust in these dice is scarce, yet everyone employs them. And then there are the cards, especially if one finds themselves in the more genteel corners of the town. These are thick, hand-painted, worn at the edges, and inevitably missing a card or two. The rules are as fluid as the ale, changing with each new explainer. At times, the goal is to achieve the highest score. At others, it's about matching symbols or simply improvising. It's a game akin to poker, but with a lot more card slapping. Wagers here can be anything from coins to mugs, even to livestock. Yes, someone desperately seeks a superior goat. Another bets their boots, and yet another stakes their own freedom for the night. The stakes are high, the rules are loose, and the night is young in this rustic arena of chance. Alas, he was defeated, this unfortunate soul. The tavern regulars, with their sly maneuvers and practiced ease, were simply too cunning. They shuffled their cards with a deceptive quickness, rolled their dice with an almost lethargic slowness, and flashed grins that were just a touch too eager. Cheating naturally. It's all part of the thrilling game. A secret die slipped into a sleeve, a card subtly marked a well-timed cough when fortune seems to smile upon another player. Should you strike it, rich tradition demands you buy the next round, or else face the risk of a less friendly encounter. And if you find yourself on the losing end, you paste on a smile, feign intention, and inch your chair towards the exit, dignity intact. But the night in a medieval tavern isn't just about the tables. Side games spark up like wildfire, arm wrestling, thumb wars, and the ever-entertaining challenge of who can consume the most without toppling over. The victor basks in the crowd's applause while the vanquished finds themselves beneath the table, their only prize a throbbing headache that lingers until the next market day. Yet even amidst the chaos and the absurdity, there's an infectious energy. a magnetism that pulls you in, because here luck isn't merely a game. It's a high-stakes wager with your coin, your honor, and perhaps your trousers. As the evening deepens, the air grows thick with warmth and humidity, setting the stage for a different kind of spectacle. It's story time medieval style. A bard in the corner clears his throat, his fingers coaxing a squeaky tune from a half-tuned lute, its strings protesting like ancient leather boots. Missing a few teeth but not an ounce of bravado, he begins with a flourish, spinning a tale of a knight besotted with a mermaid drowning in love and poetry. No one buys his story yet, all hang on his every word. That's the magic of this place. Truth bends, but entertainment reigns supreme. Around the tables, others emboldened by ale find their voice. One boasts of wrestling a bear and surviving to tell the tale. Another swears, in this smoke-laden chamber where the fire's crackle competes with the clink of mugs, tales soar from the mundane to the mythical. You might overhear a tale of a witch who transformed a gentle cow into a mischievous goat, or a man proudly claiming kinship with Charlemagne, tracing the lineage through his mother's cousin. Each narrative begins with a humble, "You won't believe this, but..." And they're absolutely correct. We don't yet. We yearn to. Boasts transform into ballads. Mishaps morph into myths. Laughter erupts as someone delivers a jest so dreadful it loops back to hilarity. Another recites poetry, possibly pilfered from some ancient monk's scroll. The room responds with applause, whoops, or occasionally a tossed loaf of bread, judging the performance by its vigor or volume. Should fortune smile, a scold or a minstrel might grace the tavern, these wandering professionals who barter their songs for coins, meals, and perhaps a night's shelter from the cold. Their tales are polished, their songs long, their capacity to stir a crowd both enchanting and perilous. Yet even these seasoned storytellers adhere to the sacred rule, never let the truth spoil a splendid yarn. Here storytelling transcends mere entertainment. It's a tradition, a connection, a way to forge friendships, rivalries, and sometimes lifelong companions over tankards of ale. By midnight, half the tavern is reenacting the epic saga of a one-legged knight who single-handedly fended off 6 highwaymen with nothing but a kitchen ladle. You laugh, you cheer. You momentarily forget these tales are spun from thin air. For in this medieval haven, every spinner of tales is a legend provided the story captivates. As the night deepens and the ale flows like a river, the atmosphere shifts, infused with a boozy boldness. The bard, now into his third song about faithless shepherdesses, ignites a spark of romance in the air. Welcome to medieval courtship, where subtlety has taken its leave. It begins with eye contact, or rather one eye attempting to focus through a mead-induced blur. A man with but 2 teeth left leans over the bench, his words slurring. My lady, your beauty outshines the stars themselves, even in this dim tavern light. Your beauty outshines even the brightest hearth, he declares, with a flourish, only to have a crust of bread sail through the air, striking his forehead with a dull thud. The room erupts in cheers, laughter echoing off the wooden beams. Others, less daring, attempt their own charms, offering refilled mugs with a shy smile, fumbling through compliments, or chivalrously offering to carry a bowl of stew, which inevitably ends up on the floor. For the women here, be they staff guests or wandering merchants, it's a familiar dance. They navigate the advances of 3 would-be poets, 2 eager arm wrestlers, and 1 peculiar man attempting to balance a knife on his nose. Sometimes it impresses, most times it leads to a black eye or an empty purse. Yet amidst the flirtations, taverns are more than mere playgrounds for romance. Courtesans glide through the crowd with a seasoned grace, their eyes sharp for those with coin charm or those who will not make it past the stairs. The transactions are subtle, but the implications resound like a drumbeat. Ah, the jealousy. Nothing ignites a brawl quite like a stolen glance or a wandering hand. A husband catching his wife's laughter at the bard's jest about bishops' tables are flipped. Mugs become makeshift weapons, and a bench snaps in 2 once more. But in this maelstrom of chaos, true connections are forged. A bashful baker's daughter and a wandering stonemason find common ground over a shared stew, their laughter mingling with the clamor. 2 inebriated farmers bond over their mutual disdain for turnips. Even a monk in his clumsiness flirts unknowingly with a nun. Love, or something akin to it, thrives in the wildest corners. In the medieval tavern, romance is a concoction of charm, chance, and the art of not face-planting into your soup mid-conversation. You might capture a heart or earn a slap, but either way, you're destined to remember it, or at least be reminded of it come morning. It was inevitable, wasn't it? In an instant, the atmosphere shifts as a drink is spilled, igniting the fuse of chaos. Perhaps it was a heated accusation of dice cheating, or maybe a stubborn dispute over a bench, or even a sharp comment about someone's mother. It doesn't truly matter what sparked it. The tavern, once alive with the melody of music and the clinking of mugs, transforms in the blink of an eye. A stool soars through the air, a tankard meets its end on the floor with a resounding crash. Amidst the uproar, a voice cries out, "Hold my bread!" And with the agility of an inebriated catapult, a figure vaults over a bench. Surprisingly, this scene elicits little reaction from the patrons. Most continue their drinking unfazed. A medieval tavern brawl is not an anomaly, but a cherished tradition, almost a feature of the establishment. While it might sound menacing, these skirmishes are typically more slapstick than sinister. Punches are thrown with the precision of a blindfolded archer, combatants stumble over fallen comrades and land in someone's stew. Hair is yanked, beards are tugged, and garments tear amidst the melee. The tavern keeper, embodying the spirit of a battlefield commander, wields a ladle like a scepter, and a club like a staff, directing the chaos with a roar. Occasionally, an onlooker caught up in the fervor dives into the fray, without understanding the cause, joining with fists flying. Others, with a glint in their eye, place bets on the outcome, cheer on their favorites, or wisely move their drinks out of harm's way. Drawing a weapon, however, is taboo. Such an act could escalate the jovial scuffle into a legendary tavern tale, and no one wishes to risk banishment from the only sanctuary of hot meals and warm ale. Eventually, the combat wanes as a fighter hits the floor and decides to stay down, or another stumbles into a wall, choosing it as a spot to reflect on life's choices. The brawl fizzles out like a candle abruptly and without fanfare. Here's the peculiar part: once it's over, it's truly over. The fighters are pulled apart, mugs are refilled, someone strikes up a tune, and within mere moments the tavern returns to its convivial state. Laughter rings out once more, even from the fellow with the nose that's still dripping blood. No hard feelings, no legal battles, just a collection of bruises, tales to tell, and perhaps a new moniker like One-Eyed Arnold or Benchbreaker Bill. In a medieval tavern, a hearty skirmish is merely an element of an evening's merriment. Oh, how messy, how ridiculous, and yet how strangely unifying. And if no one ends up too worse for wear, it simply adds to the night's entertainment. As the dust settles from the brawl, the bard, now slumped over his lute, has drifted into a deep, ballad-induced slumber. Your belly full of mystery stew and slightly fermented cider signals it's time for rest, or at least an attempt at it. But forget about luxurious feather beds and sheets scented with lavender. This isn't a spa, it's a medieval tavern. Should the tavern provide lodging, you'll find it up a creaky staircase, navigating past floors that slope like the deck of a ship at sea and under beams that challenge the resilience of your skull. The rooms upstairs are tiny, chilly, and utterly communal. Privacy. Foreign concept here. You'll be bunking cheek by jowl with strangers. Some snoring as if their lives depended on it, others murmuring in tongues unknown to you. The beds. Well, they're more like straw-stuffed mattresses, thin, lumpy, and teeming with what the locals endearingly refer to as companions. You settle in fully dressed boots on a dagger tucked beneath your pillow, not for comfort, but for precaution. Blankets are communal, as are the odors. And if someone has indulged in garlic earlier, and someone always does, it will weave itself into the fabric of your dreams. If you're too light of purse or too heavy with drink for a room, you'll find your bed beneath a table on a bench or in a corner by the hearth, perhaps next to a dog whose ownership is as dubious as the stew's ingredients. Expect to be trodden upon, possibly sneezed on, and maybe even used as a human footrest. The tavern never truly falls silent. Even after the last tankard is emptied and the last fight is settled, sleep descends upon you, a reluctant visitor in this cacophony of human existence. There's always someone whispering secrets to the night, a log crackling in the hearth, or the distant muffled sound of a fart reverberating through the wooden beams above. Yet against all odds, you find slumber. It's not a bed of feathers, nor is it spotless, but it's secure enough. The fire fights valiantly against the encroaching chill, while the tavern keeper, ever vigilant, guards with one eye open and a club ready at hand. The symphony of sounds snoring, muttering the creak of wood, transforms into a lullaby. It's the melody of life raw and unrefined. You'll awaken with a stiff neck-parched lips and perhaps an unexplained bruise or two. Yet for a fleeting moment, you rest amongst a motley crew of travelers, scoundrels, farmers, and jesters. Here there are no monarchs, no hushed reverence, just the chorus of snoring, the crunch of straw, and the quiet hope that your boots remain by your side come dawn. As morning approaches, it sneaks in like an unwelcome guest, casting slivers of light through the gaps in the shutters, nudging your eyelids with an unrelenting touch. The tavern has shifted in its slumber, not quieter per se, but subdued in a resigned manner. You pry open an eye. A boot presses against your chest, another soul mumbles about sheep taxes in their sleep. The bard, clutching his earnings as if they were a cherished lover, snores beneath a table. A chicken origin unknown pecks at the remnants of last night's feast. The fire, now just embers, leaves the air cold and tinged with smoke. Some patrons begin to rouse their groans, echoing like those of warriors defeated not on fields of battle, but within the confines of their own minds. One man, having surveyed the day, decides it's not worth the effort and collapses back onto the straw. The tavern keeper, ever the first to rise, clatters. Mugs sweep straw into new heaps and warm something in a pot that smells both comforting and slightly resentful. They cast a glance at the slumbering figures on the floor, then strike a ladle against a pot, the sound a sharp call to the living. Oh, the awakening! A mug like a morning bell from hell clangs you into consciousness. Up or out, that's the stark choice you face. No lavish breakfast spread awaits, but if fortune smiles, there's more pottage than before its texture. Now a hearty, almost palpable thickness. The bread, once cold, is now warmed, and the ale, though diluted, quenches the thirst of those too weary to protest. Some patrons, in a bid for cleanliness, simply dunk their heads into a barrel of rainwater outside, claiming this as their daily ablution. Checking your pouch, you find 2 coins and a button, a small fortune compared to your expectations. Your boots, still here, bear the marks of the night's escapades, one even sporting a bite mark. Yet they're yours, a victory in itself. The tavern stirs anew like a slumbering beast roused by the dawn. New faces, the early risers, travelers and workers, seeking liquid courage before facing their daily battles, be it with livestock taxes or the dreaded neighbor. A story from the previous night begins to circulate, already embellished. Now it boasts not 1 but 2 fights, and the bar song that supposedly summoned a ghost. Everyone nods in agreement, as if this version were etched in stone. The night was chaos incarnate, and the morning, it's a groggy, grimy aftermath. Yet you can't help but smile. You've survived the sweat, the smoke, the sticky ale underfoot, the cacophony of voices, the flirtatious glances, the hearty pottage, and perhaps even a rogue bench flying through the air. In this medieval haven, one truth becomes resplendently clear. This tavern wasn't merely a place to drown sorrows or celebrate victories with drink. No, it was the pulsating heart of the community. In a world devoid of phones, newspapers, or digital connections, the tavern was where news spread like wildfire. Here, a merchant from the coast could regale others with tales of exotic ports. A soldier might recount the visceral realities of war. A bard's songs wove the fabric of community, their lyrics shifting with each retelling. This was the nexus of connection, where farmers drank elbow to elbow with craftsmen, where pilgrims broke bread with thieves, and where strangers found friendship. In the hallowed halls of the medieval tavern, friendships bloomed like wildflowers in the spring, often before the second round of drinks had even begun. Here, the rigid lines of social class melted away, giving rise to a melting pot where whispers of intrigue birthed rumors. Alliances were forged with the clink of tankards, and old grudges either found their rest or flamed anew with the roll of dice. Imagine the tavern not merely a place for revelry, but a crucible where life's myriad transactions unfolded. Contracts were sealed with handshakes over splintered tables, amidst the aroma of spilled cider and the laughter of patrons. This was no ordinary establishment. It was a court where justice could be swayed by the eloquence of a bard's song, a confessional where secrets were whispered into the shadows, and a stage where every patron played their part in the grand drama of life. Could you not find employment, lose your coin purse, witness a wedding, or ignite a feud all within the span of an evening? Indeed, the tavern offered more than mere sustenance, it provided solace. Escape from the biting cold, the relentless toil and the grim solemnity of survival was found here. For a fleeting moment, one could sit by the crackling fire share in a poorly told jest belt, out a song more off-key than any you've heard, and momentarily forget the harshness of the world outside. Even if the ale was lukewarm, the beds as welcoming as a hedgehog's embrace, and the stew more bone than broth, the tavern was a sanctuary of vitality. In an era when life could be snatched away by disease, war, or the chill of winter, without notice the sense of belonging, the fabric of stories, and perhaps if fortune smiled a spot by the hearth to rest, was priceless. Stepping into a medieval tavern wasn't just about quenching thirst. It was about immersing oneself in the essence of community, the warmth of companionship, and the enduring spirit of human connection. Long before the advent of cafes, pubs, and coffee houses, there was the tavern, loud, gritty, honest, and utterly unforgettable. And amidst this vibrant tableau, before she emerged as the timeless symbol of ancient Egypt, her visage immortalized in limestone, with high cheekbones and a gaze of serene confidence, Nefertiti was a figure shrouded in enigma. Her name, the Beautiful One Has Come, heralded her arrival, yet her origins remain as mysterious as the stars that guided travelers to this very tavern. Her origins spark a fierce debate, yet her impact on the tapestry of Egyptian history is beyond question. Nefertiti bursts onto the scene like a bolt of lightning, sudden, dazzling, and transformative. She steps into Akhenaten's life not as a mere consort, but as an equal a partner in a reign that would send shockwaves through Egypt's ancient religious and cultural landscape. Together they embarked on a path that would dismantle millennia of tradition, casting aside the myriad gods to elevate the sun disk Aten as the sole divine entity. This was not merely radical, it bordered on heresy. And Nefertiti, she was far from a passive observer on her throne. She was there at the forefront, leading sacred ceremonies, presenting offerings, and even portrayed in artworks, smiting enemies, a role typically reserved for the pharaohs themselves. Unlike the queens who faded into the background, Nefertiti's presence was undeniable. She graces more of the period's art than Akhenaten himself. In these depictions, she does not bow in subservience. She stands tall, often larger than life, with power quite literally in her grasp. And in a society where pharaohs were deemed divine, her closeness to Akhenaten, both in spirit and in statecraft, hinted at something more profound. Was she merely a queen, or was she in fact a co-ruler? This ascent, however, was not without its frictions. Egypt was unprepared for such upheaval. The old priesthood guardians of the traditional deities felt their world crumbling as their gods and temples were sidelined. The capital shifted to Akhetaten, now known as Amarna, severing ties with the old ways. And amidst this whirlwind of change, Nefertiti was there, her silhouette carved into the stone, her name resonating in hymns to the sun. Yet for all her prominence in life, her death remains shrouded in mystery. No tomb has been found, no remains identified, no definitive end, only silence. It's as if after a life so vibrantly lived, history itself has conspired to keep her final chapter untold. Imagine the moment when the eyes of a woman whose brilliance had captivated an entire civilization suddenly turned away from the gaze of the world. This, my friends, is where the true saga of Nefertiti unfolds, her story, intertwined with the enigmatic figure who altered the course of history, Pharaoh Akhenaten. Originally known as Amenhotep IV, he was born into a lineage steeped in tradition, a prince poised to inherit a divine legacy. Yet within him stirred a profound change, a shift some whispered was divine inspiration, others declared outright madness. Upon ascending to the throne, he renounced Amen, the mighty god, and unveiled a new singular truth: the sun itself, Aten, was the only deity worthy of worship. This was not merely a religious revolution. It was a seismic upheaval that shattered the very foundations of Egyptian society. Picture a civilization woven tightly with the threads of temples, priests, and sacred rites being abruptly told that their millennia-old beliefs were mere shadows of a greater truth. Akhenaten not only preached monotheism, he imposed it with a fervor that would change everything. Temples dedicated to Amen were sealed shut, his name was meticulously erased from monuments, statues were shattered, and cities were left to the sands of time. In the wake of this upheaval, Akhenaten constructed Akhetaten, a city consecrated solely to Aten, where the sun's first rays would pierce between the cliffs, bathing the city in a divine light. And beside him stood Nefertiti, not merely as a silent partner, but as an active, revered figure. In the art of the era, she is depicted with the same devotion to Aten as Akhenaten himself. Their children, often portrayed alongside their faces turned towards the life-giving sun, painted a family portrait that was unprecedented in Egyptian art. The artistic expression itself transformed. No longer rigid and formal, the figures were now fluid, exaggerated, and at times profoundly intimate. Scenes of the king and queen sharing kisses, frolicking with their children, or praying in soft flowing robes under the sun's gaze were revolutionary. Nefertiti was not just present, she was everywhere in this newly envisioned world. Her presence was undeniable, her role pivotal. At times, one could scarcely distinguish where her influence began and where it might end. Beyond her overshadowing her husband Nefertiti's influence in ancient Egypt's political sphere was undeniable. Some historians posit she wielded genuine authority, perhaps even sharing the throne as a co-regent. Inscriptions have surfaced naming her Nefer-Nefer-Waten, a title believed to signify her autonomous rule. The true nature of Akhenaten's decision to share power, whether it stemmed from love's strategic maneuvering or sheer necessity, remains a puzzle. Yet one thing is clear: without Nefertiti, the fervor of this revolution might have dissipated far sooner. But revolutions, oh, how delicate they are. The gods do not easily relinquish their thrones, and the populace. They watch silent and observant, yearning for the return of the old ways. By the zenith of her power, Nefertiti transcended mere royalty. She became an emblem not only of unparalleled beauty, but of divine womanhood and regal might. Egypt had known formidable queens before Ankhness, Neferibri, Hatshepsut, but Nefertiti's presence was uniquely transformative. She didn't lurk in the shadows or seize power through conflict. Instead, she was actively reshaping Egypt's spiritual and cultural essence, alongside her husband embodying the living goddess. Nefertiti bore Akhenaten's 6 daughters, Meritaten, Meketaten, Ankhesenpaten, among others, often depicted in familial scenes beneath the life-giving rays of Aten. Strangely, no sons were ever confirmed. In a realm fixated on lineage, this absence was both a political conundrum and a historical enigma. Was it merely fate, or did something deeper stir beneath the surface? Some whisper that Akhenaten might have fathered sons with other consorts, or even with Nefertiti herself, spawning theories that range from the speculative to the scandalous. What stands undeniably at the heart of Nefertiti's portrayal is her role as a mother. Artworks capture her, cradling her children, their small hands reaching for her face. These are not mere statues. They are frozen moments of life, intimate and charged with emotion. Ah, Nefertiti. Her name dances through history like the warm breath of the desert wind, a figure so radiant, so vibrant, that she made the gods themselves seem touchable. In an era where pharaohs were often shrouded in the mystique of divinity, Nefertiti's image as a nurturing mother softened this divine veil, humanizing the very essence of royalty. Yet there was another facet to her iconography, one that pulsated with power and authority. Behold the queen in her blue crown, a symbol traditionally reserved for the male rulers of Egypt. She stands not merely as a consort, but as a warrior smiting foes, commanding chariots and presenting offerings, without her husband Akhenaten by her side. These were not mere gestures of symbolism, they were the sacred acts of a ruler. This portrayal hints at a profound truth, a silent revolution perhaps, where Nefertiti was not just preparing for partnership, but for sovereignty itself. Whispers from the sands of time suggest that as Akhenaten's health waned, possibly due to genetic ailments or the crushing weight of his revolutionary reforms, Nefertiti's role expanded. She assumed more of the governing responsibilities, her presence becoming as indispensable as the Nile itself. But then the sands of history shift, and she fades from sight. No grand farewells, no inscriptions of mourning, no confirmed resting place. Did the sands claim her too soon? Did she lose her standing, or was she on the cusp of a transformation even greater than that of a queen? Once ubiquitous, her visage carved into the very walls of Egypt, celebrated in hymns, ruling alongside a pharaoh who dared to change the course of history. And then, like a whisper lost in the vastness of the desert, she was gone. No queen before her had ever been so visible yet. In the 12th year of Akhenaten's 17-year reign, the records fall eerily silent. Her name, once echoed in the halls of power, now finds no echo. Her image, once omnipresent in art, now fades like the setting sun. For one so pivotal to Egypt's cultural upheaval, her disappearance is not merely strange. It is a void, a mystery that beckons. What happened to Nefertiti? One theory whispers the simplest of explanations: she perished. Childbirth a gamble, even for those of royal blood, might have claimed her. Her second daughter, Meketaten, too vanished from the records, around this time perhaps following her mother into the silence of history. Imagine, if you will, the heart-wrenching tragedy of a mother and daughter, their lives snuffed out in a single shadowed moment. Yet the silence following such an event seems almost heretical. Where was the grand procession, the outpouring of grief, the temple adorned in her honor? Nefertiti, revered as a goddess among mortals, deserved more than a whisper into oblivion. Her demise, shrouded in mystery, does not align with the grandeur of her life. Others whisper of political intrigue, of power plays within the royal court. Could it be that Nefertiti, once the sun in Akhenaten's sky, had fallen from grace? Perhaps Akhenaten, in his growing seclusion, chose another to stand by his side, sidelining the woman who had once shared his throne. Enter Smenkhara, a figure as enigmatic as he is brief in historical texts. Was he a male heir, a brother, or could he have been Nefertiti herself, reborn under a new guise? This theory sends shivers down the spine. Did Nefertiti not vanish, but transform, ascending to the throne as pharaoh? The evidence tantalizes. Neferneferuaten, who governed in the twilight of Akhenaten's reign, spoke with feminine grammar and called Akhenaten her beloved. Could this have been Nefertiti ruling as a sovereign queen? If true, she would have etched her name alongside Hatshepsut in the annals of Egyptian history, a female king in her own right. Yet like sand through fingers, this theory too slips away. Neferneferuaten's reign ends as abruptly as it began, and from the shadows steps a name more familiar. Tutankhaten, later Tutankhamun, the child king destined to undo his parents' reforms and restore the ancient gods. If Nefertiti did rule alone, it was but a fleeting moment. If she was Smenkhare or Neferneferuaten, she ruled as a spectral queen, her presence felt only in the fragments of history, in half-carved cartouches and shattered relics. Her story, a puzzle missing its heart, leaves us yearning for answers. Just as suddenly as she appeared, the most formidable woman of Egypt vanished, yet her legend just beginning to form whispers through time. As the dust of her era began to settle, a new figure emerged. A boy king barely out of childhood, stepping into the light of history. Imagine a young boy barely old enough to grasp the weight of a scepter, ascending to the throne of Egypt. His name, Tutankhaten, later transformed to Tutankhamun, would echo through history, not for his deeds in life, but for the astonishing treasures unearthed in his undisturbed tomb. Yet amidst this grandeur, one mystery lingers like the shadow of the pyramids at dusk. Who was his mother? The historical records, frustratingly silent, offer no clear answer. His father, almost certainly Akhenaten, left behind a legacy of religious upheaval, but the identity of Tutan's mother remains cloaked in ambiguity. Some scholars whisper that Nefertiti, the iconic queen, was his stepmother, while others suggest she might have been his biological mother. Art and the timing of her last public appearances hint at her presence during his early childhood. If Nefertiti indeed bore Tutan, it would explain the assured guidance that marked his initial reign. Who then was the puppeteer pulling the strings during Tutan's fragile reign? At merely 9 years old, when he assumed power, a child could hardly single-handedly restore a religious empire. Someone with a deep understanding of court politics, religion, and public symbolism must have been at work behind the scenes. Could it have been Nefertiti ruling from the shadows, or perhaps the high priest, her possible father, or a collaboration between the two, working tirelessly to erase the chaos of Amarna and restore Egypt to its ancient deities? A compelling piece of evidence comes from a golden shrine discovered in Tutan's tomb, where a woman anoints the young king. Her features bear a striking resemblance to Nefertiti. If this indeed was her, it suggests she did not vanish from the scene, but remained at the heart of power, albeit in a more discreet guise. Yet without a named tomb, without a clear lineage, the enigma of Tutan's mother continues to tantalize historians and enthusiasts alike, leaving us to ponder who was the true power behind the throne. In the enigmatic annals of history, we find ourselves grappling with the fading echoes of a woman whose influence was once as radiant as the sun on Egypt's sacred sands. Nefertiti, a queen, a priestess, perhaps even a pharaoh, now stands as a spectral presence, her essence scattered like the sands of time. While her fingerprints might be scattered across the relics of Tutankhamun's reign, her name has been meticulously erased from the annals of history, scrubbed from temples, omitted from king lists, as if someone sought to obliterate the memory of a woman who once wielded power like a deity. Oh, the irony. It is through the resurrection of Tutankhamun's fame that her shadowy figure has begun to emerge from the depths of oblivion. In the quest to unravel his story, the world stumbled upon hers. Yet for someone who epitomized the radical shift of Egypt's Amarna period, Nefertiti left behind no confirmed resting place. No monument proclaims her death rites, no sarcophagus cradles her earthly remains, no funerary mass gazes out with her enigmatic eyes, and no inscription whispers her final farewells to the gods. It's as if she simply vanished into the ether. This absence, this void where Nefertiti should be, has tormented Egyptologists for over a century. In a culture that revered the afterlife, where every noble was embalmed, mummified, and buried with meticulous instructions for the soul's journey, how could one of Egypt's most powerful women be lost to the sands of time? Theories proliferate like the whispers in the wind. One possibility whispers of a hasty burial, devoid of ceremony in the final turbulent years of the Amarna period. Perhaps her radical legacy branded her as dangerous in the eyes of the new regime. Her tomb might have been dismantled, her name defaced, part of a sweeping effort to erase the memory of Akhenaten's heresy. The return to traditional gods was swift, and vengeance was often etched in stone-cut hieroglyphs. Another more tantalizing theory suggests her tomb was never truly lost, but simply misidentified or hidden in plain sight. Some researchers speculate that she lies within the Valley of the Kings itself, perhaps concealed behind the very walls of Tutankhamun's tomb. In 2015, radar scans of KV-62, the famed tomb of King Tut, hinted at possible hidden chambers. Could Nefertiti be buried just inches away, sealed off and forgotten, her legacy preserved in the darkness, waiting for the light of discovery? Could it be that beneath the sands of time and gold, the world's most enigmatic queen slumbers just out of reach? The very notion has seized the imagination of dreamers and scholars alike, causing Egyptologists to hold their breath in anticipation. Yet as further scans yielded nothing but shadows, the fervor cooled. Excavations dwindled and funds evaporated. Nefertiti once again slipped back into the realm of myth. But her silence is deafening. Her visage, captured in countless forms, stone pigment, and beyond, haunts us still. Her bust, housed in Berlin, peers through the glass with an inscrutable grace, as if holding secrets just beyond our grasp. Does she know something we do not? Is she waiting for something or someone? Year after year, the sands of Amarna and the Valley of the Kings are turned over in hope. Whispers ripple through the archaeological community. Might a sealed chamber finally yield her secrets? Could a forgotten inscription or a scattered fragment of pottery spell out her true name? Or is Nefertiti doomed to remain an eternal enigma, an incomplete chapter in the saga of Egypt? If history sought to bury her, it failed spectacularly. The quest for Nefertiti has only deepened, become more fervent. Why does her memory persist even without a tomb to call her own? The answer lies beneath the gentle glow of museum lights in Berlin's Neues Museum, where a painted limestone sculpture discovered in 1912 still captivates the world, the bust of Nefertiti. She gazes ahead with an air of poise and serenity, her elongated neck graceful, her blue crown unmistakable, her features so refined they almost seem to belong to our time. One eye remains unfinished, perhaps intentionally, or maybe overlooked in the final days of the workshop. Yet in her incompleteness, she is timeless, unforgettable. German archaeologist Ludwig Borchert unearthed her from the ruins of Thutmose's studio at Amarna. As he brushed away the dust revealing her face, he knew at once what he had found. In his diary, he noted simply, "No use describing it. You have to see it." Indeed, one must witness Nefertiti to understand her enduring allure, the silent promise of her gaze, the eternal question she poses to us all. When the world finally laid its eyes upon her, Nefertiti transcended the pages of history to become an emblem of allure, sovereignty, and an ancient enigma. Yet her iconic bust, despite its universal acclaim, stirs controversy. Germany, which acquired this treasure during a time of lax antiquities laws, now faces Egypt's persistent pleas for its return. To the Egyptians, Nefertiti belongs in the very soil kissed by the sun that once warmed her skin beneath the sky's eternal gaze. Yet Germany stands firm in its refusal. They argue her delicate condition makes her too vulnerable for the journey back. Some whisper it's the prestige she brings, for, indeed, Nefertiti is their own Mona Lisa. Her presence wherever she resides has forever altered our perception of ancient women. She was no mere passive beauty. Her bust exudes a regal, assertive aura, almost daring in its silence. One can imagine her as a keeper of secrets, a maker of decisions, a shaper of empires. It's astonishing how this solitary, silent sculpture can breathe life into a figure lost to the sands of time. We might never unearth her tomb, nor uncover the mystery of her demise. Yet through this artifact, Nefertiti has achieved immortality, not in the gleam of gold, but in the enduring memory of humanity. Her face, though motionless, speaks volumes, resonating louder than ever through the corridors of time. Nefertiti's saga exists in a realm between the cold stone and the hushed silence between what is known and what we yearn to believe. Few from ancient history have so captivated our imagination, stirred such profound curiosity. She embodies paradox, one of the most recorded women of her era, yet still largely an enigma. Over centuries, she has been envisioned in myriad ways. To some, she was a deity in human guise, the very essence of divine beauty. To others, a political virtuoso, the quiet force behind thrones. Her story, rich with intrigue and mystery, continues to unfold, inviting us to ponder, to dream, to question, who was Nefertiti truly? In the shadow of the throne, perhaps even as the throne itself, Nefertiti stood a figure of intrigue and power. Some have romanticized her tale, envisioning her as a tragic heroine lost amidst the sands of revolution. Yet others see her as a woman of ambition, perhaps even of ruthlessness, who navigated the crumbling empire with a grace and calculation that was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. But what do we really know of this enigmatic queen? We know she was far more than just the royal consort. Her depictions challenge those of kings. Her presence at religious rites, royal ceremonies, and even in the heat of battle showcases a woman not merely adjacent to power, but actively shaping it. In a world ruled by men, she did not rebel, but rather, through her poised presence and mastery of the visual and spiritual language of her era, she carved out her own dominion. We understand she played a pivotal role in one of history's most audacious religious upheavals. While Akhenaten might have conceived the monotheistic sun cult, it was Nefertiti who personified it. She was the living embodiment of a divine concept, the conduit between the divine eight and above and the earthly populace below. She did not merely serve the gods, she was their living image. After her mysterious disappearance, her legacy faced a near erasure. The backlash against Akhenaten's regime dragged her name into obscurity. Her statues were shattered, her inscriptions marred, her contributions to history intentionally obscured. Yet 3,000 years hence, we still murmur her name. Why? Because myth endures where facts fade. When a woman becomes both an icon and a mystery, she transcends the grasp of time. Sometimes the questions resonate more profoundly than the answers. Perhaps, just perhaps, Nefertiti orchestrated this very outcome to be remembered, not explained, to be admired, not confined, to live eternally not as the occupant of a single tomb, but as a queen of perpetual speculation. More than 3 millennia have elapsed since Nefertiti graced this earth, and still we are left pondering her enigmatic legacy. Ah, to have once strolled under the golden gaze of Egypt's sun, Nefertiti's shadow stretches far beyond the sands of time, her essence captured in the silent reverence of museum glass, the hushed whispers of scholars, and the vibrant strokes of artists' brushes. She does not merely linger in the annals of history, she thrives, her legend expanding with each passing era. What is it about her that captivates us? So is it merely her beauty? No, for beauty we have seen in many forms. It is the enigma, the deliberate gaps in her story that beckon us, almost taunting us to delve deeper, knowing we might never fully grasp her truth. In this way, Nefertiti transcends the mere historical to become archetypal, a canvas upon which each generation paints its own image. In the dawn of the 20th century, she emerged as an exotic queen, both mysterious and submissive. With the rise of feminism, she transformed into a beacon of female authority, a lost ruler reclaimed from the shadows of patriarchal erasure. Today, she is a fashion icon, an emblem of African royalty, a political figure, and perhaps even a pharaoh in her own right. She lives through our imagination, not confined by the rigid lines of recorded facts. But perhaps this is the most poignant form of immortality. In ancient Egypt, life after death was not merely about preservation of the body through mummification. It was about the perpetuation of memory. If one's name was uttered, their image beheld, their tale retold, they lived on. Nefertiti, whether by intention or by serendipity, has mastered this art. Her name echoes across the globe, her visage, one of the most iconic in human history. Her story, though fragmented, still grips the collective consciousness. Thus, her true legacy is not chiseled into stone or buried beneath the sands, but rather it is the undying curiosity she inspires. She has crafted a mystery, a life partially seen, partially obscured, and utterly unforgettable. Perhaps that was her ultimate display of sovereignty. Not merely to reign over an empire, not just to mold religious beliefs or to nurture future queens, but to transcend time itself. Nefertiti, the beautiful one who has arrived, has never truly departed. She lingers within our curiosities, our awe, and our relentless drive to remember those women whom history has endeavored to erase. Her legacy does not dwell in mere gold or fleeting glory, but in the perpetual act of being sought after. And what could be more immortal than that? In the mystical lands of China, where clouds caress the earth and the wind sings through bamboo forests, a dragon slumbers. But this is no creature of myth or a fire-breathing beast from ancient tales. This dragon is sculpted from the very earth, a masterpiece of stone and soil, crafted by hands hardened over centuries, and a vision of enduring patience. It is the Longji Rice Terraces, known to locals as the Dragon's Backbone. 102-21. Its majestic curves undulate across the mountainside, each terrace glistening with water rice and the pride of ages. From afar, the terraces mimic the form of a slumbering beast. The hills undulate with a rhythmic grace, each level ascending and descending like the sinew of a living entity. But approach closer and behold something even more vibrant. Water murmurs gently through meticulously crafted channels. Young rice plants dance in the gentle breeze, and at dawn the morning mist envelops the scene, like the breath escaping from a dragon's nostrils. These terraces were not hastily constructed. Their saga commenced over 700 years ago, when the Zhuang and Yao people, ethnic minorities deeply rooted in these mountains, decided to conquer the slopes rather than forsake them. 103-12. Flatland was a luxury they could not afford, and machinery was a dream yet unrealized. Faced with such adversity, they turned to the mountain and posed a simple yet profound question. How do we sustain ourselves in this place? The answer unfolded over generations. With nothing more than stone tools and bamboo baskets, as the years unfolded, the people of the Longji region carved the very hillsides with their own hands inch by inch, etching dreams into the earth. With every terrace they built, they weren't just altering the landscape, they were teaching it to synchronize its breath with theirs. Rainfall became a treasure, slopes became life-giving sustenance. Where once gravity reigned supreme, now rice, the essence of life, flourished. Over time, these terraces took on the form of a slumbering dragon, majestic, timeless, and holy. This was far more than mere agriculture. It was a symphony of harmony, a silent covenant between humanity and the wild. No part of the mountain was squandered, nor was it coerced into submission. Instead, the people danced with the earth, sculpting it into gentle curves and undulations, heeding the whispers of the wind and tracing the paths of water. Today, the dragon's backbone continues to nourish entire communities. But its significance transcends sustenance. It serves as a testament to what patience can achieve. In our haste-filled world, here lies a dragon not pursued, but lovingly sculpted layer upon layer, dream upon dream. To wander through the Longji Rice Terraces is to enter a realm shaped by unwavering persistence. Here there are no illusions, no signs of machinery, no markers of corporate claims. What unfolds across these mountains are the marks of human endurance. Each curve, each slope, each droplet of water has been meticulously placed stone by hands that felt the very heartbeat of the land. Centuries ago, when the Zhang and Yao peoples first gazed upon these daunting, rugged hillsides, they didn't see barriers. They saw boundless opportunity. The fertile valleys below were already claimed, but here amidst the peaks lay untapped potential. They needed only to coax the earth into listening. With no sophisticated tools at their disposal, they relied on wooden shovels, stone hoes, and baskets filled with mud and rubble borne on backs weathered by time. Gradually, terraces emerged like horizontal veins, threading through the mountain, each one a testament to their unyielding spirit. These terraces, embraced by meticulously hand-stacked stone walls, were not mere accidents carved into the hillside. They were the result of deliberate, painstaking calculation. Each tier was a testament to balance, not just holding water, but channeling it from one level to the next with an almost mystical precision. Imagine the stakes: one misstep and an entire section could crumble. Too steep and the water would rush away; too flat and it would pool and stagnate. The artisans didn't measure with rulers. They measured with the wisdom passed down through generations. Children absorbed the knowledge from their elders, who in turn observed the dance of the seasons. Over time, the mountain yielded not in defeat, but in a profound trust. From the valley's cradle to the peaks that kiss the clouds, these terraces ascend like a grand spiraling staircase to the heavens. They reflect the mountain's contours with such grace, you'd almost believe the mountain itself had sculpted them. Yet it was not nature but human hands that shaped these curves. Without the aid of engines, concrete, or formal architectural training, they relied solely on time, on trial and error, and on a belief that even the steepest land could be transformed to nurture life. Today, these terraces still thrive, still cultivated, still lovingly maintained and respected. There are no bulldozers here, no shortcuts. The old ways persist, not because they resist the march of progress, but because they embody a truth rare and profound tradition, when deeply rooted, can withstand every tempest. If the mountain's backbone is its muscle and bone, then water is its lifeblood, flowing silently without the need for mechanical intervention. It follows ancient pathways, seeping from the mountain's crown into each terrace below. This hydraulic ballet, this secret heartbeat of the terraces, is no mere chance. It's the essence of their endurance through the centuries. At the mountain summit, rainwater and natural springs are captured in slender ditches and earthen canals, where gravity then takes the reins, guiding the water's journey. As the water gracefully cascades from one terrace to the next, it forms serene pools that nourish each field, a silent ally to the farmer. This ingenious design, fluid and seamless, ensures that each rice paddy receives its due sustenance, neither a drop more nor a drop less. Here there are no mechanical valves or switches. Control is vested in the simple yet profound gates crafted from stone or wood, adjusted with the touch of human hands and the wisdom of habit. What would happen if one terrace overflows or if a leak goes unnoticed? The villagers, ever vigilant, tread the ridge paths each day, their steps a dance of care and correction. They adjust, they listen, they feel the pulse of the water's flow. It's not merely farming, it's akin to playing a delicate instrument. A single discordant note could disrupt the symphony of growth. But the water's role transcends mere sustenance. It transforms the landscape into a celestial mirror. In spring, as the terraces brim with water, they become glassy surfaces reflecting the heavens above. Visitors often marvel at this surreal sight, where the mountain seems to hold up a mirror to both the sky and the earth below. As summer arrives, the water's reflection fades, overtaken by the vibrant green of rice stalks, swaying gently like waves in an emerald sea. Autumn brings a golden shimmer as the ripened grains glisten through the water. And when winter blankets the land, the once flowing streams turn to stillness. The dragon of the terraces sleeps, yet the channels remain like quiet veins, biding their time for the spring thaw. Time in this place is not measured by the ticking of clocks, but by the gentle trickling of mountain streams, the chorus of returning frogs, the earthy scent of wet soil. In a world obsessed with seconds here in Longji, time flows with the seasons and the drops of water. Here the dragon does not breathe fire or take flight. It lives in the gentle ripples, a testament to a life lived in harmony with nature's rhythms. In the heart of the Longji Mountains, spring awakens not with the burst of blossoms, but with the gentle whisper of water. As the snow caps begin to thaw under the sun's tender gaze, Streams weave their way down the slopes, their waters a lifeline to the terraces that lie in wait. The mirror-like patties, pristine and expectant, signal the start of a time-honored ritual. Here the dragon of legend stirs, and the community prepares united in a tradition that binds them to the past to plant the first seed. There's no fanfare, no blaring trumpets, only the serene procession of farmers, young and old, rising with the morning mist. They tread softly along the slender ridges, their straw hats casting shadows over their eyes, baskets heavy on their backs. The air rich with the aroma of damp earth, and the crisp mountain breeze envelops them. The paddies flooded days before now gleam like lustrous jade under the soft light. This is not a job for machines. It never has been. Each rice seedling, nurtured in nursery beds, is tenderly transplanted by hand, one by one, row upon row. The farmers, stepping into the chill of the water, press each delicate stalk into the mud with fingers that know the earth. It's a rhythm that feels almost sacred. Back bent, arm extended. Fingers press and repeat. This dance continues all day, sometimes stretching into weeks. Children too join in the ritual, their laughter mingling with the sound of splashing water. They learn not from books, but from the tactile wisdom of the soil, understanding the spacing by eye, the feel of resistance. This is how knowledge endures lived rather than spoken. Planting transcends mere labor. It is a ceremony. Offerings are presented to the mountain spirits and songs rise carried by the wind. In certain villages, the elders cast the first seedlings as a blessing, a sacred act. Each field planted is a covenant with the land, with ancestors, with the future generations. The pace here is unhurried, for who dares to rush the dragon to outpace the mountain? Instead, they move with the rhythm of the land, a heartbeat that has pulsed through these mountains for centuries. As the rhythm of planting unfolds, it becomes more than just a task. It is a meditation, a delicate ballet between humanity and the nurturing earth, where patience intertwines with purpose. With each passing day, tender green shoots emerge from the waterlogged fields like the softest of whispers, heralding the beginning of a new cycle. Not merely of rice, but of hope itself. Each seed a silent prayer, each row a gentle stand against the rush of time and the gnawing pangs of hunger. And thus the cycle renews, not with clamor or flame, but with the tender touch of hands in the mud and hearts reaching for the heavens. The dragon symbol of the land stirs to life. The mountain exhales, and the future is sown, one precious seed at a time. Along the sinuous lines of the ridges and nestled within the curves of the terraces, the pulse of the dragon's spine beats strong. Here lie villages like Pingandai and Jing'an, not merely clusters of homes, but vibrant tapestries of heritage. Each structure, path, and balcony clings to the mountain, as if holding on to a cherished memory refusing to be forgotten. These homes, perched on stilts, are crafted from timber, a design that shields them from relentless rains and the sheer slopes. Their dark, angled roofs echo the contours of the terraces below, appearing from above like wooden lanterns adrift on an emerald sea. Within these walls, life unfolds with a simplicity that warms the soul, where generations coexist. Meals are prepared over crackling wood fires, and the essence of rice wine and bamboo smoke permeates the mountain air. The inhabitants, members of ethnic minorities like the Zhuang and the Red Yao, each carry their unique languages, traditions, and tales. The women of the Yao, with their long, uncut hair since childhood style, it into intricate crowns upon their heads. Occasionally, when they wash in the river, their hair cascades down like streams of silk, a sight so ethereal it seems pulled from legend. Despite the encroaching wave of modernization, these traditions, these people remain a testament to resilience, their stories woven into the very fabric of the land they so tenderly cultivate. As one ascends the serpentine mountain trails, the grip of tradition tightens, embracing the land and its people with a fervent loyalty. Oh, how the air fills with the scent of indigo. Each hand-woven garment, dyed in the deep blues, speaks of a heritage that refuses to fade. In the stillness of modest rooms, wooden looms groan under the gentle touch of skilled hands weaving the threads of time into tangible art. Sapromar and the music. During village festivals, the haunting melodies of reed pipes and the resonant beats of bronze drums fill the air, a symphony of celebration that dances with the souls of the attendees. Weddings are not mere ceremonies, but grand displays of ritual dances, each step a narrative of love and union. The harvest, too, is greeted with songs that echo through the hills, songs of gratitude and joy for the earth's bounty. Here, hospitality is not a mere act, but a heartfelt gesture, a reflex ingrained in the spirit of the community. Guests are welcomed with tea, its leaves plucked from the local shrubs, and rice wine served in intricately carved gourds. Imagine the stories shared. Elders. Their voices, like the whispering wind, recount tales of dragons veiled in mist, of ancestors who with their bare hands sculpted the very hills, and of spirits ever watchful over their verdant fields. Despite the influx of curious visitors from around the globe, the pulse of village life beats on undisturbed, like the steady, unyielding flow of a mountain stream. The rice continues to thrive, the rituals still herald the changing seasons, and the terraces alongside the people persist. They absorb change not with resistance, but with a gentle embrace, much like water cascading down the levels of a waterfall. In this land, life does not rush. It flows, it echoes, it remembers. To tread the terraces of Longji is to journey through layers of myth. Can you feel it? The hills are not mere earth and rock. They are alive, pulsating with stories that weave through bamboo groves carried by the whispering winds. For the villagers, these mountains are not just land. They are sacred entities crafted by deities, protected by spirits, and animated by tales passed down through generations. The most cherished legend whispers of a slumbering dragon, its immense body stretching across the ridges. Its spine and coiling ascents forms the terraces themselves. Locals believe that the undulations of the mountain are not human-made, but the rising and falling of the dragon's scales with its breath. When the mist ascends from the valley, enveloping the paddies in a cloak of white, it is said the dragon awakens. Its mighty presence felt in the very air. In its serene slumber, the landscape breathes gently. Another tale unfolds, revealing the origin of the terraces as a divine gift of benevolence. In a time when hunger gripped the land, the ancestors ascended the rugged mountains, their voices lifted in fervent prayer to the heavens above. Touched by their unwavering faith, the gods responded, not with thunder, but with a gentle rain, and whispered instructions to carve the hills into steps where rice might thrive. The people, with hearts full of hope, obeyed, and lo and behold, the dragon manifested its ethereal presence, guiding their every move. 1:16:25. Since that moment, they've revered the mountain with a reverence so deep, their respect is woven into the very fabric of their lives. Voices are hushed in the fields, trees are felled only with a prayer, their beliefs not confined to dusty pages, but alive in the melodies sung during planting, in the fragrant smoke of incense that ushers in each new growing season, and in the profound silence of misty dawns. These stories, not mere fables, but truths etched into the landscape, are imparted to children who grow up knowing that to mock the dragon is to court disaster, to dishonor the spirits is to summon calamity. And there are spirits in the water too. Before the terraces receive the first spring waters, some farmers still offer a few drops of rice wine, their prayers a whisper on the wind. 1:17:11. It's not for spectacle, but a tradition as ingrained as the act of tying a shoe. Whether one believes in dragons or not, there's an undeniable sanctity that pervades the air here. Is it the silence, the drifting clouds, or perhaps the quiet certainty that this land is more than just the work of human hands? For centuries, the dragon's backbone was a secret cradled by the mountains, a place of quietude known only to its guardians. But no sanctuary, no matter how sacred, can remain untouched by the march of time. The road came, followed by wires. Tourists with their cameras and smartphones began to ascend the hills. 1:17:36. Oh, the heart-wrenching dilemma that gripped the ancient terraces of Longji as they faced a challenge they had never encountered before. How does one thrive in this relentless modern world? There was palpable concern in the air, a fear that the sacred mountain might be fragmented and sold off to the highest bidder, its essence traded for cold concrete, its rich culture reduced to mere costume. But the resilient people of Longji did not just survive. They flourished by ingeniously integrating the new into their storied past. Imagine villagers with hearts wide open, welcoming strangers, not as tourists, but as kin into their homes. Here in these stilt houses where the roosters still herald the dawn guests, partake in the simple yet profound pleasures of life. They savor sticky rice steamed in bamboo tubes and the freshest wild greens, all under the watchful gaze of the ancestors whose spirits still linger. This isn't a staged spectacle for the benefit of visitors. It's a genuine slice of daily life, unadorned and authentic. And the farming. It persists with an unwavering commitment. Season after season, the terraces are flooded, seeds are sown by hand, and the harvest is reaped with time-smooth sickles. The children, while busy with books by day, join their families in the fields as the sun sets, embodying the symbiotic relationship between tourism and agriculture. Tourism may line their pockets, but rice feeds their souls. One sustains the other, an essential partnership. Why do some of the young who once ventured into the urban sprawl find themselves drawn back to the terraces? It's not merely nostalgia. It's the soothing symphony of water trickling through the paddies, the celestial dance of stars reflected in the water, the profound lessons of patience taught by the mountains themselves. Even as local festivals now echo with the sound of microphones, rather than the beat of drums and signs in Mandarin and English dot the landscape, the core rituals endure. Offerings are still made, and elders still lead the songs, their voices weaving through the air like the terraces themselves. The dragon's backbone has not resisted change. It has embraced it with an elegance and equilibrium that speaks to the soul of the land. The terraces stand not as relics of a bygone era, but as living, breathing entities, adapting and evolving, much like the people who call this place home. As the world rushes headlong into the future, there are places like Longji, where tradition not only survives but thrives, proving that progress can indeed tread softly with reverence for what has come before. Here in this sanctuary of ancient ways, the very landscape is a testament to the enduring beauty of the past, a gentle reminder that the old can still hold a place of honor in our modern lives. The dragon's backbone, ever shifting, never twice the same, dances through the seasons in a spectacle of transformation. In cities, change is measured in years, but here the terraces evolve in mere weeks, each draped in a different light, a different rhythm. To linger among them for a full year is to watch the mountain itself breathe. Spring comes with the subtlety of a mirror, the terraces filled with water reflecting the sky like a silver lake. Clouds don't just pass overhead, they seem to float beneath your feet, creating an illusion of walking through the heavens. The fields appear barren, yet beneath the surface life pulses with potential. Summer bursts forth in a vibrant green, the rice shoots rising like eager children covering the hills in a verdant tapestry. From afar, the terraces resemble ribbons of lush velvet undulating in all directions. The air, thick with moisture, resonates with the chorus of frogs. Farmers immersed in their work move through the fields, their hats like small sails on a jade ocean. Then comes autumn, a season of gold, where the rice matures and the terraces ignite under the sun's caress, shimmering with the promise of harvest. The fields sway and the breeze drums resonate through the valleys, and communities come together in a symphony of celebration. It's more than just a season, it's a festival of life. The dragon, now fully awakened, generously offers its bounty. As winter approaches, the mountain exhales into stillness. The terraces, once teeming with life, stand empty. Water recedes and occasionally a gentle snow blankets the steps in a serene white painting, a picture of tranquility. At other times, a landscape stripped of its vibrant colors reveals the stark, beautiful bones of the earth. Here in this quiet, one can reflect on the cycle of life, on the dance between progress and tradition, and find peace in the knowledge that even as seasons change, some things remain timeless. Frost adorns the walls like delicate lace, a silent testament to the passage of time. 122-09. Here in the fields, there are no tools clanging, no voices echoing, only a profound silence. The dragon, this mighty emblem of nature, slumbers, resting, ever waiting. Each season inscribes its own unique verse upon the landscape. Spring with its reflective waters, summer bursting with growth, autumn offering its bounty, and winter a time for rest. The true allure of Longji lies not merely in its form, but in its cycle, in its serene acceptance of the passage of time, in its silent transformation, never needing to declare its presence. 122-37. Photographers with their lenses thirsting for eternity chase the fleeting light here. Yet the terraces do not pause for any mortal gaze. They are ever in motion, ever breathing. They whisper to us the timeless lesson that beauty is not a still image, but a living, breathing rhythm, a practice, a promise that renews itself with each turn of the season. And thus the dragon shifts not with a roar or the flare of flame, but with the gentle touch of water, the sway of grain, and the whisper of the wind. 1-2303. Ultimately, these terraces transcend mere fields. They are a sacred vow etched gently curved and carved into the mountainside, a promise that has been handed down from one hand to the next, from one season to another, from one generation to the next. The dragon's backbone is not just an agricultural marvel or an engineering feat. It is the narrative of what occurs when humans elect to coexist with the land, not in opposition to it. 1-2327. There were simpler paths, less arduous routes that the ancestors of Longji could have pursued. They could have sought the ease of the valleys, the flatter expanses, but they chose to stay. They studied the slope, listened to the whispers of the stone, followed the paths of water, and through this they turned the impossible into the ordinary, nurturing life on a mountain's steep face. Each curve of these terraces holds not just rice, but lessons in patience, in legacy and care. 12356. These terraces were not crafted over mere years or decades. They are the product of centuries of dedication. There is no shortcut to true harmony. No machine can replicate the knowledge painstakingly etched into each stone wall by hands toughened by toil and quiet persistence. Yet in their simplicity, they embody a profound complexity, a dance between man and nature, a silent dialogue that speaks volumes about our connection to the earth. Behold the terraces alive and ever-changing. They dance with the whims of the weather, they sway to the rhythm of human needs, and they embrace the contours of our world. Their secret: they never stood still, rigid and unyielding. Instead, they flowed like a river, adapting, evolving. Even as modernity ascends the hills with its relentless signals and screens, these terraces remain deeply rooted. They transform, yet they do not disappear, for their essence is woven not just into the soil, but into the very fabric of our stories, our rituals, our timeless act of planting hope in the form of a seed, trusting the sky to nurture it. To tread upon the dragon's backbone is to partake in an ancient covenant between humanity and earth, a pact sealed with the sweat of our brows and the warmth of the sun, renewed with each bountiful harvest. It whispers a profound truth. Progress does not always equate to haste, nor does greatness always shout from the rooftops. Sometimes it whispers like a gentle stream caressing the stones. Is it any wonder then that these terraces resonate so deeply with farmers, wanderers, and visionaries alike? They remind us of something we've nearly lost sight of in our modern rush, that the most enduring legacies are crafted not with brute force, but with the gentle beat of time, with humility, with rhythm. The dragon dreams on the people persist, and the mountain in its silent majesty remembers. And as most gaze skyward at Giza, captivated by the majestic pyramids and the enigmatic gaze of the great Sphinx, few ponder what secrets lie beneath. Under the sands, beneath the Nile's gentle flow, beneath the passage of forgotten ages. For in the tranquil waters near the ancient village of Abu Rash, not far from the Giza Plateau, a curious tale emerges. It speaks of something vast, worn by time, and overlooked. An underwater sphinx, perhaps local fishermen have spun tales of this for generations, describing a form too symmetrical to be mere happenstance, a feline figure half swallowed by the mud and time itself. As the waters of the Nile ebb away during times of drought, a mysterious sight emerges from the waterlogged sediment. Stone, worn yet clearly shaped by human hands, curves and grooves appear, some even daring to suggest a carved pour. This enigmatic sight, far from the beaten tourist paths, is enveloped in a thicket of reeds and the silence of brackish waters. 126:32. Here there are no signs to guide you, no ropes to keep you at bay, no buses filled with eager sightseers. Instead, explorers speak of a land that feels charged, as if it holds memories within its very soil. Beneath the murky depths, sonar reveals geometric patterns and blocks placed with deliberate care. But what truly astonishes is the possibility that this sphinx-like figure, lurking in the shadows near Giza, might predate the pyramids by not just decades, but millennia. 27:1. If this is true, imagine the shockwaves it would send through our understanding of Egyptian history. The mainstream timeline places the Great Sphinx around 2500 BCE. But this underwater enigma, if indeed crafted, could trace back to an era when the Sahara was verdant and the Nile flowed through a landscape far more lush and untamed. 127.26. Skeptics naturally brush it off as mere rock shaped by water and the whims of imagination. Yet the grooves, the curves, their alignment with celestial bodies all beckon with more questions than they resolve. 127.50. This site, untouched by official archaeology, remains shrouded in mystery. Perhaps it's merely an illusion, or perhaps it's a key to a forgotten chapter of our past. The underwater Sphinx lies in quiet anticipation, not slumbering, but waiting. If it could speak, what tales would it unfold? Why do so many choose to turn a deaf ear to its silent whispers? 1. 2819. The legend of this submerged wonder began to stir from whispered local tales to a subject of global fascination in the 1980s, thanks to the curiosity of a few independent researchers and divers who dared to explore beyond the known. In the midst of this debate, a fervor began to swell as curious publications started to release reports. Their pages filled with tales of a colossal figure, half lion, half human, lying in repose near the Giza Plateau, its body partially submerged in the sands of time. The early images, shadowy and unclear, whispered secrets that were all too easy to dismiss. Yet these whispers grew into a cacophony of questions that could not be silenced. One passionate voice rose above the others, that of an amateur Egyptologist. He spoke of a monument not of recent creation, but one that had been swallowed by the earth, revealed briefly during a drought. He insisted this was no mere trick of erosion or a coincidental rock formation. No. This figure bore the marks of intention, leg symmetry, even the ghostly hint of a face carved into its surface. Imagine the implications. Such a discovery would not just challenge, but shatter the very pillars upon which Egyptology stands, demanding a reevaluation of when and how human civilization flourished. Scholars, guardians of established timelines, responded with a mixture of caution and scorn. Without the rigorous validation of peer-reviewed studies, carbon dating, or stratigraphic analysis, they argued, how can such a claim be taken seriously? They posited that what was seen could easily be nature's own artistry, sculpted over millennia by the Nile's relentless flow and the patient hand of erosion. Yet the enigma persisted. Photographs circulated, sonar readings puzzled experts with their unexpected regularity and smoothness. What if the theorists mused this submerged Sphinx was not just a natural formation, but a relic from a civilization lost to history, perhaps even predating the known Egyptian dynasties? Could it be evidence of an Atlantean legacy or an advanced pre-dynastic culture now buried beneath the sands of the Sahara, its secrets eroded by time and water? The debate raged on, stirring the waters of history with each new piece of evidence, each speculative theory. What lies beneath the sands of Egypt? Could this be the key to unlocking the mysteries of our past, or merely a mirage? A trick of light and shadow played upon the vast, ancient canvas of the desert? Could it be that the secrets submerged in the Nile's depths are older than our collective memory can fathom? 1:30:52. The clamor of debate swelled, but the earth itself remained silent, holding its secrets close. No official excavation was initiated. No museum dared to claim the enigma. And the Sphinx, if that's indeed what it is, continued its silent vigil, half buried in the silt, straddling the line between legend and reality. The notion that something near Giza might predate the pyramids isn't merely provocative. It's a seismic shift in our understanding of history. 131:16. If this underwater enigma is more than just a trick of erosion or a mere coincidence, then Egypt's narrative didn't commence in the Fourth Dynasty. No. It whispers of a time before, when the Sahara was a verdant savanna and the Nile flowed with a wild, untamed vigor. This revolutionary idea began to gain momentum in the 1990s when Dr. Robert Schoch turned his geological gaze upon the Great Sphinx itself. Born 3142, he posited that the profound vertical weathering on the Sphinx's enclosure wasn't the work of wind and sand, but of torrential, sustained rainfall, which hadn't graced the Giza Plateau since at least 7,000 BCE. This revelation thrust the possible age of the Sphinx back by millennia to a time before the first pharaohs etched their names into stone. If water could sculpt the Sphinx, could it also conceal an even older sibling? 32:11. The so-called underwater Sphinx rests in a lower area near ancient floodplains. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar tease us with glimpses of potential foundations, rectangular patterns and deliberate formations, all cloaked beneath layers of silt in seasonal waters. These hints suggest that the site might not just be older than the Sphinx, it might hail from an epoch when Egypt's story was yet unwritten, a time when the Nile's course was still wild and wandering. 132:32. Supporters of this theory point to Egypt's lost chapters, the enigmatic gap between the end of the Ice Age and the emergence of the first dynasties. During this pivotal era, the Nile carved new paths through the land, possibly burying ancient truths beneath its ever-shifting waters. As the Sahara, once lush with wet grasslands, slowly surrendered to the relentless march of the desert civilizations, might have risen and crumbled into oblivion, their stories untold, their legacies erased. Burns to 132:56. Is it truly beyond belief that an ancient civilization, one before the dawn of written history, could have crafted a monument of monumental proportions? Traditional historians might scoff, yet consider this Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, constructed around 9600 BCE by hunter-gatherers, boasts megalithic pillars adorned with intricate animal carvings, predating Stonehenge by millennia. 133:21. Could Egypt harbor secrets akin to this? A culture so ancient that it left its mark in stone long before the age of papyrus? Imagine if the underwater Sphinx was indeed built in such a time, how it would revolutionize our understanding of human history. It would whisper of not merely forgotten ruins, but of an entire forgotten epoch, one that might have inspired the architects of Giza, leaving behind not just myth, but perhaps a monument now submerged and forgotten. 133:48 stone, in its stoic silence, bears witness. Around the site of what is known as the underwater Sphinx, it tells a story not just of time, but of water. Layers of sediment erosion, marks and patterns of ancient floods suggest a history far older than the arid sands of today. Long before the Nile settled into its familiar path, before the pharaohs etched their names into eternity, this land knew a different touch. 134:14. Geologists poring over photographs and data from near Abu Rawash have noted peculiar erosion marks, smooth grooves that speak of prolonged exposure to flowing water. Not the abrasive sands or the relentless winds, but the gentle, persistent force of rainfall, a phenomenon absent from this region for countless centuries. Similar observations have been made about the Great Sphinx itself, particularly its enclosure wall. 134:39. Critics of the established timeline argue that the deep vertical fissures on the Sphinx's surrounding trench bear no resemblance to wind erosion. They evoke the memory of heavy, sustained prehistoric rain. Now at the potential site of this submerged wonder, what secrets might still lie hidden, waiting to challenge our perceptions of time and civilization? As we delve deeper into the mystery of the submerged Sphinx site, the enigma intensifies. Beneath a shallow flood basin, hidden from the casual observer, lies a structure that whispers secrets of a time long past. Imagine, if you will, moments when the Nile's flow wanes or when the earth yields to the spade, revealing parts of this ancient enigma. The lion-like hunches, the shoulders broad and majestic, and a foundation too perfectly level to be mere happenstance. These are not the random whims of nature, but the deliberate strokes of human hands, now caressed by the gentle yet relentless touch of time. Researchers with their eyes trained on the past have noted the geological activity of the basin. High clay content evidence of ancient water tables fluctuating with the fury of nature's heartbeat all suggest a dynamic landscape that has both preserved and obscured this monument. The stone here, though heavily worn, does not bear the scars of random erosion, but rather the gentle guided wear that follows the lines of the structure itself. It's as if the monument was once proudly carved, then gradually swallowed by the mud, forgotten by shifting sands of time and the wandering silt of the Nile. But can we dismiss this as mere coincidence? Skeptics might argue that these are natural formations sculpted by the hopeful gaze of myth seekers. Yet does water carve with such precision? Does it craft symmetry, align foundations, or echo the geometry of a known Sphinx just a few miles away? The question that lingers like the echo of ancient whispers is, what else has this relentless water taken with it? How much of our history still lies silent and unseen beneath the surface? Why has this underwater sphinx not been fully unearthed? Why does it remain buried under layers of mud, ignored by the currents of archaeological interest? Egypt's guardians of history are rightfully protective, shielding their ancient heritage with stringent protocols and a demand for academic consensus. Yet one wonders, in this cradle of civilization, what other tales of human endeavor and divine inspiration lie waiting just out of sight beneath the ever-flowing waters. Unearthing any site, particularly one that dares to defy the conventional timeline, is a task fraught with bureaucratic hoops, financial hurdles, and the watchful eyes of the world. Permits must be obtained, funding secured, and international oversight ensured, but above all, one must navigate the labyrinth of institutional approval. Here lies the crux. Do not dare to rewrite Egypt's history without an Everest of irrefutable evidence. This is the unspoken decree that governs archaeological endeavors. The so-called underwater sphinx has never been graced with an official excavation sponsored by the state. A cadre of independent researchers, foreign academics, and fringe theorists have ventured into its study, yet their findings linger in the realm of the anecdotal, suggestive whispers in the academic wind, but lacking the conclusive stamp of authority. Then there's the Nile, ever the dynamic force, not merely a backdrop, but an active participant in this saga. It floods it, recedes, it shifts its course over the decades. The site where this monument purportedly rests is prone to submersion, often cloaked beneath water for much of the year. An excavation would necessitate not only draining the area, but also managing the delicate balance of water removal, protecting nearby ecosystems, and mitigating the structural strain from centuries of sediment pressure. This alone would be a monumental undertaking, spanning years, if not decades. Yet beyond the logistical, there are the political currents to navigate. A discovery of such magnitude, if verified, would not just disrupt academic timelines, it could upend established narratives, bruise national pride, and unleash a media maelstrom Egypt might not be keen to weather. The Ministry of Antiquities prefers to bask in discoveries that echo Egypt's grandeur, not those that question the very foundations of its history. Whispers abound that certain institutions might already hold more secrets than they share. Preliminary studies conducted in the shadows, perhaps behind closed doors, but without public records, peer-reviewed findings, or government proclamations, these claims dissolve into the realm of conspiracy. Thus, the monument remains shrouded, buried under layers of mud and doubt. In a land that prides itself on preserving its ancient past, isn't it a cruel twist of fate that one of its greatest mysteries might be right before our eyes, yet unclaimed, unstudied, untouched by the official chronicles of time? Yet as history has taught us, nothing remains buried forever. To the ancient Egyptians, the Sphinx transcended mere artistry. It was an emblem of guardianship, divinity, and enigma. With its majestic lion's body and human head, it embodied the fusion of brute strength with profound wisdom, where might was harnessed by the regal intellect. Positioned at the very thresholds where the heavenly touched the earthly, the Sphinx stood as a celestial sentinel. The most renowned, the Great Sphinx of Giza, has stood sentinel over the plateau for over 4 millennia, its gaze fixed upon the dawn's first light, eternally vigilant over the pharaoh's resting places. Yet the origins of this colossal figure remain shrouded in debate. Was it crafted by Khafra, or does its history stretch back even further? Its visage perhaps reshaped by time's relentless hand? Imagine, if you will, the revelation of a second Sphinx hidden beneath the sands, weathered by water, possibly predating the known history. What would this mean? It would not merely alter history, it would rewrite it entirely. No ancient texts whisper of twin sphinxes at Giza. Silence pervades the records. However, delve into the Greco-Roman traditions, and you'll find tales of guardians placed in symmetry, standing sentinel at sacred thresholds. In Egyptian architecture, symmetry holds sanctity. Temples boast twin statues, twin obelisks, avenues, flanked by pairs of lions. So why not twin sphinxes? Some scholars propose that this so-called underwater sphinx might not be an imitation, but the original, a prototype from a pre-dynastic era, later scaled up and replicated. If this were true, it would imply that the Sphinx concept did not originate with the dynastic builders, but was inherited from an earlier, perhaps now forgotten culture, whose myths were preserved, adapted, and embellished. Could this monument, predating written history, be free from the ideological constraints of the pharaohs. Its purpose might have been astronomical, ritualistic, or commemorative, perhaps marking a significant event, a deluge, or a deity lost to time. The lion's form is no mere choice of design. In ancient Egypt, lions were symbols of, on the horizon where dawn kisses the world awake and dusk tenderly bids it farewell, stands an eternal sentinel. The Sphinx, its gaze ever eastward, watches the sun's rebirth, a timeless act frozen in stone. Now envision one carved before the pyramids, aligned with cosmic precision, guarding waiting. Such a discovery would not merely rewrite history, it would redefine the very mythos of Egypt, not as the cradle of civilization, but as the last whisper of an even older saga. And consider this symbol might be slumbering beneath the waves, a fitting guardian for lost worlds submerged in the quiet depths. As whispers of this underwater sphinx ripple across the globe, a chasm has opened deeper than the sediment or stone it might lie beneath. On one side, traditional Egyptology stands cautious, structured, rooted in the soil of academic consensus. They demand evidence, peer-reviewed studies, stratigraphy inscriptions, and radiocarbon dates. Their vigilance is not without merit. Egypt is dotted with natural rock formations that mimic human or animal shapes. Misidentification could lead to the spread of misinformation. Archaeology, they argue, must tread lightly. The past is fragile. Once broken by careless hands or media frenzy, it cannot be pieced back together. Yet on the other side, a growing community of independent researchers, alternative historians, and curious minds argue fervently for something extraordinary being overlooked. They see caution as complacency. These investigators, many of them trained scientists or engineers from beyond the traditional fields, insist that the underwater sphinx and its mysterious counterparts deserve a deeper exploration. They point to high-resolution satellite imagery, revealing unnatural symmetry to lidar scans, detecting rectangular foundations buried beneath layers of mud, and to erosion patterns that suggest not chaos, but deliberate design. And they dare to ask what political motivations might be at play in this silence. After all, tourism dollars flow through well-trodden paths, and a new sphinx, especially one challenging the accepted timeline, could disrupt the established order. Doesn't this intrigue you to ponder the depths of history and the guardians of secrets yet untold? The very essence of Egypt's narrative and authority could be thrown into disarray by the whispers of an underwater sphinx. The fear, as some scholars articulate, isn't merely of a hoax, but of the daunting task of rewriting history itself. Today, books, documentaries, podcasts, and conferences frequently delve into the enigma of the submerged figure, a symbol now of a concealed past. It serves as both a call to arms and a warning sign. Supporters urge for open excavation, while skeptics caution against the embrace of pseudoscience. The truth, as ever, lies obscured, buried beneath layers of debate as dense as the silt of the Nile. This divide transcends academia. It tugs at the very heartstrings of our emotional connection to history. Do we cling only to what has been proven, or do we venture into the shadows of the unknown, following the breadcrumbs of history? The underwater sphinx compels us to confront this question, not just as a relic, but as a challenge to our curiosity. And while it remains submerged, the debate rages on above a monument that whispers nothing yet could alter everything. There is a haunting allure in a mystery so plainly hidden, particularly when it bears the visage of a lion gazing up from the depths with a silence as old as time itself. This so-called underwater sphinx, whether myth or reality, exerts an undeniable pull on our collective psyche. It awakens in us a desire not just to uncover, but to reconnect with our roots. Deep within the narrative of a lost monument touches upon a human sentiment as ancient as civilization itself, the sense of loss. We have always coexisted with ruins. Cities crumble, languages fade, civilizations disappear beneath the sands of time and the waves of change. Our gaze turns to the past, not just in search of answers, but in quest of our identity. Who were we? How deep do our tales run? And what have we left behind in our relentless march towards the future? If the underwater sphinx is indeed real, if it was crafted by hands from a time before our own, as we delve deeper into the annals of recorded history, this relic transcends mere artifact status. It transforms into a voice echoing from an unknown chapter of our past, a testament from an era where the stars were perhaps read with different eyes, the the earth revered with a more intimate touch and myths woven with threads of mystery we can scarcely imagine today. Some whisper of an advanced prehistoric civilization now lost to a cataclysmic event, a notion often scoffed at as mere fringe speculation. Yet the emotional weight this possibility carries is undeniable. Envision a monument sculpted before the pyramids stood now swallowed by the relentless rise of waters, erased from the tapestry of time. This image forces us to grapple with the ephemeral nature of civilization. Isn't this why the tale lingers? It serves as a poignant reminder that time does not march in a straight line, that even the mightiest empires are fleeting, and that stone too can vanish under the persistent flow of rivers. Moreover, this discovery underscores that our quest for knowledge is far from over, that the earth still cradles secrets beyond the pages of our textbooks. In an age where answers are instantaneous and information is at our fingertips, the underwater sphinx stands as a rare enigma, an unanswered question, a beacon of possibility, not yet illuminated by modern technology. Whether it turns out to be mere rock or a forgotten monument, its value is already profound because it stirs our curiosity. Doesn't it make us wonder if our understanding of the past is merely scratching the surface? Does myth hold a kernel of truth, a memory of what once was? What other wonders lie just beneath the surface, patiently waiting for someone to listen? The underwater Sphinx of Giza, whether a deliberate creation or a natural formation, remains where it has always been hidden beneath the mud, the water, the weight of time. It has no plaque, no name, no fanfare. And yet in its silent obscurity, it speaks volumes, reminding us that for every monument we've unearthed in Egypt, countless others lie in wait, some too delicate to ever be brought to light others. As the narrative of the Nile's relentless embrace concludes, we find ourselves at a juncture where history is not just remembered, but felt a poignant reminder of time's relentless flow. Beneath the ever-shifting sands, secrets are swallowed and voices are silenced by the weight of silt and the passage of centuries. Yet some relics stand starkly in plain sight, not because they are unimportant, but because they pose questions we are unprepared to confront. Consider the underwater Sphinx not merely a figure of stone, but a sentinel of silence. Its power does not lie in its grandeur or its age, but in the quietude that compels us to acknowledge the boundaries of our understanding and the unease of what might have slipped through our fingers. Perhaps it will never be unearthed, its excavation hindered by the towering barriers of politics, funding, and tradition. Yet this obscurity does not diminish its relevance. Rather, it amplifies its significance. The Sphinx becomes a reflective surface, not just of what lies concealed beneath the earth, but of our collective memory, what we choose to hold dear, and what we allow to fade into oblivion. History, it seems, is not a sealed tome, but a dynamic puzzle strewn across continents and coastlines, yearning for a shift in perspective or a courageous inquiry to disturb the settled dust. Who knows, maybe the waters will one day retreat, revealing the Sphinx in its full glory, its enigmatic face gazing once again at the sky. Or perhaps technology will echo the whispers of ancient myths. Or maybe the mystery will persist, handed down through the ages like a secret shared between the stones. Whether it remains a monument or a mirage, the underwater Sphinx fulfills its ultimate role. It ignites our imagination. In an era where certainty is king, this spark of mystery is its most profound gift. Indeed, perhaps the most ancient relics aren't merely buried in sand or lost to time. They might be embedded within us in our innate desire to explore, to remember and to believe that somewhere beneath the waves or the desert dunes, the past still lives, waiting for us to breathe life into it once more. As we part ways with this tale, I extend my deepest gratitude to you, dear viewer, for joining me on this journey through time. Your engagement means the world. Please let your thoughts and feelings ripple through the comments, share this video to spread the wonder, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to continue this adventure with us. Thank you for being part of our quest to uncover the whispers of the past.